Hi everyone, this video is a short overview of the third and final research paper for this class. We're gonna just quickly review both of the options. We'll talk about what some of the requirements are real quick, and then I'm gonna tell you a handful of tips for how to complete these. So, first things first, the two options, you've got the cultural analysis paper and the origins of rape culture paper. The might seem a little different at first, but they're actually pretty similar. So in the cultural analysis paper, what you would do if you selected this option is you analyze an artifact of pop culture, and then you talk about what messages it sends in the paper. I mean, your paper talks about the messages, and then you explain what impact that may or may not have. And you would get a specific example from like a TV show, a movie. It might be a specific character that you focus on. Or it could be an advertisement, something like that. And so, like, every semester I seem like I read one that's about body image. Somebody found an artifact that communicated something about body image, and then we talk about that and how that relates to gender. They do. Or it's about a specific popular TV show and about the messages of masculinity or femininity, something like that in the TV show. And remember that those messages might be progressive, regressive, or they could be both. And then you tell me, like, there's a mix. Look at Game of Thrones. There is like a whole lot of stuff going on in there about gender. And I have a super funny, like, dork opinion about that TV show in particular. So if you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it, maybe in email or something. But it's a good example because there's a lot of different messaging happening in that particular TV show, and you could argue pretty strongly and clearly either way that that's either progressive or regressive. So you get to pick. And then you tell us what impact that has. I don't know. Typically messages have impact over a long period of time, and if you're getting it from multiple sources. So think about that. And then the other one is to write a paper about the origins of rape culture and think about what messages in American culture contribute to what is rape culture. And you would want to talk about what rape culture is, and then analyze and provide examples about how that is created, because it is a social construct. It is created in communication, and it's created largely in how we communicate gender, or about gender too. So hint, space and power, gendered nonverbals, space and power, there's a strong connection there. And we have talked about that in multiple contexts in this class. So here's just one more. And that's one way you might do that. There's a whole bunch of ways you could do. You could talk about, actually, you could blend the two. You could talk about rape culture and TV because it is all over pop culture. So those are just some ideas. The things that they have in common is that you're going to do some analysis and some reasoning. So that means that you're trying to analyze your artifact or analyze rape culture, analyze messages, and then explain what impact they have on us. And then draw lines from previous chapters like, oh, I've seen this before because we talked about it in the chapter about gender nonverbals. Or, oh, I've seen this particular stereotype before because we talked about it in the chapter on the workplace. And here it is again. Or whatever. And if you're doing the rape culture one, you're probably going to bring in some stuff from that last chapter, which does cover rape culture. And then that one's really going to tie into, really, Julia Wood has written this book to kind of lead you to that last chapter, if I'm being honest about it. And so she's really building a case for that. So your job is to try to connect some of those dots. And then both of them would require rather outside research and source citation. So you would go to the library, or that means going online and search for high quality stuff. Be very careful though, because you're going to find a lot of trash and a lot of treasure out there, and you want the treasure for this. You want the good stuff. So research and source citation. And yeah, by the way, if you you will be shocked, some of you, at how much scholarly peer-reviewed type research or like academic critique has been done on Game of Thrones. It is mind-blowing, but it's because Game of Thrones is really popular. So people are like, why is this popular? What messages does it send about gender? If it's got this huge audience, what's it doing? So there's a lot of that stuff out there. And then the last one, my tips for completing this paper: start early. Start thinking about a topic this week and have a topic nailed down by next week. Pick something you like, especially something you have familiarity with. Like I'm a dork, so I've been watching Game of Thrones. I've read all the books. I could probably do this paper on just one character from that because I know it pretty well. But if I've never seen that before, don't choose that. Choose something else you have some familiarity with. And pick something you like. Like if you hate Game of Thrones, pick something else. That's fine. Sometimes I love the ones that I don't have any familiarity with because I'm like, well, that's a fascinating example. I couldn't have possibly. I barely have time to watch TV. Game of Thrones is like the only show I watch. There's probably two that I watch. And so, pick a topic you like. Go get some advice on the topic or the content from me specifically because I've done this a whole bunch and I have a gut feeling about what works and what doesn't. So we can talk about it and make it work for you. And then my third and final thought is participate in the peer review. Peer review process is imperfect but useful. So make sure you do that and email me if you need anything. Thanks.